G'day, John from Infinity Innovation Design. We're working on our 200 series Land Cruiser, V8 diesel. So we've had an issue. We were driving along the highway, doing 110. All of a sudden we've heard like a ticking sound, sort of pulled over, engine's running a bit rough, turned it off. Had a look underneath, obviously make sure, oil and water, the basic sort of stuff is not, not leaking and it's causing us an issue. This model doesn't have a temperature indicator light, as in when the radiator is low. So basically I've had no warning lights, no error codes, nothing to come up to say it's amiss. Had the same thing, I've tried starting it here at home. I've put it on the computer. The injector pump is calling for 26,240. The injectors, like good supermodels, don't get out of bed for less than 25,000 kPa. So it's calling for 26, we need 25,000, we're only getting 22,000. So basically what I've done is I've checked all the resistance. So I've checked all the injector resistance on all of them, they're all okay. I've checked the fuel pressure sensor at the back, the resistance on that's okay. Checked the suction control valve resistance, that's okay. I've gone through, basically checked all the resistance as the manual says to look for. Checked the crank position sensor resistance. I'll post a video later on my YouTube page that you can see the engine wants to crank, and as I've said previously, it's calling for 26, I'm only getting 22. So you'll sort of see it sounds like a chaff cutter basically. So I've gone through those bits and pieces. I've actually had number three glow plug was actually had no resistance, so basically I've changed all 8 while I'm here. While you're here you might as well do all 8. Now, to give you a bit of insight, the car's parked on a hill on my driveway. The coolant is still in there. The manual says, hey, drain the coolant, nice flat surface, yeah, perfect world. Not here. So we still have all the coolant in. As you can see, all the hoses are here. To get to the injectors, I've had to obviously, undo some pipe work and the bolts and stuff. We lifted it up. The little pipes you see, they're ear cleaners. So basically they fit perfectly just inside the injector top. So I've cleaned everything off, put them in, capped them off, so there's nothing there. I've then obviously made up to the ISO standard. So there is an ISO standard for higher pressure diesel engines, so for the common rail. So for the Land Cruiser 200 series, this particular pump on a 2009 puts out 1800 bar. It has an ISO standard for the threads and obviously the fittings. So I've adapted those fittings from the metric size M12 and I've put the little olives that no doubt if you've seen the injector pipes you'll know what I'm talking about. I've made little dummy olives that go in there to fit, so it sits, and then I've adapted some hokey fittings and stainless steel pipe, obviously flow control valve, my adapter for the gauge that I'll borrow to adapt on, that goes back down to the back end of the outlet of the pump. So rather than squirt 3600 psi into a bucket out of this orifice here, it's a lot safer to go back through the fuel rail, which obviously will then cross over to the other side. And I've also put in a new relief valve just in case down here. So basically, if anything, that's set for 200 megapascals. The pump only runs at 180 megapascals, so we've got fail-safe. So the aim of this test is, as you can see, I've blocked off, I've made new connections, so I've blocked off all these 4 injectors. So the sand was coming from over on the passenger driver side in Australia, passenger side wherever else you've got them. So I've made fittings and adapters, like again little flares that cover those ports. Basically now what I'm ready to do is hook the gauge up, put the computer on, and basically obviously do an initial trial crank just to make sure there's no, I'm not leaking any diesel. Obviously I've got to prime it still. Do an initial test. If I can hold as I wind this in and the gauge gets to 3600 psi, then it's not in the pump. It's potentially further down this way on the discharge side. So from there, again, knowing that the noise was coming from this side, if the other 4 injectors work, like a hold pressure on that side, then I know I'm down to this side of the rail. From there, I will then basically plug each one of these injector lines back in and see if that is the issue. If that's not the issue, then I need to regroup my wagons. Initially I thought it could be that relief valve, hence why I've changed it. So if everything comes back and it runs to pressure, then potentially because I put that new one in, I've fixed that issue, and that could be what it is. But anyway, we'll do the tests. That's what we're here for, trial and error, and diagnose what we think is going to happen or what may happen. And from there, I'll either know I've got to fix an injector or I've got some other problem somewhere else. Stay tuned.